I'd like to just name a few of the artists that I know that you've played with and worked with that I'm a fan of, and maybe just like a little name association, and just have you express some of your feelings about their strengths and what your experience from working with them. You already mentioned the first one, but you were certainly here when Frank was still alive. Frank Rossellino.
Yeah, well, I mean, Frank Rossellino did things on the trombone that I don't know anybody's doing yet. I don't think he just. It was the way the music came out of him, and there just happened to be a trombone connected to the front of him, you know. And because I don't know, you know, I've spent my life trying to figure out how he did some of that stuff. And if I was a bad copy of Frank Rossellino, I'd be happy with that, you know.
Same here. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Quincy Jones.
Quincy is amazing. He like as a producer, he's like this guy that's able to assemble people, and he assembles this great group of people when he does something, and he's got an incredible taste reservoir, you know, like his capacity to meander in and out of different kinds of music and different styles of music and be so effective at it, and at his age still is awesome. You know, I mean, he's got hugely open ears and a hugely open mind to the way he thinks about music, I think.
Great quality. Al Jarreau.
Al, another, wow. My favorite album that we did was an Al Jarreau album called High Crime. And the parts that Jerry wrote for that were so hard, but they were so fun, you know. The part, as they came out, you listen to those things. Well, and Al's singing, Al was like, he's like a drummer singing. His time feel is like the best drummer that you ever played with. And he could sing drum parts and sing rhythmic things. And you knew that there was, I mean, when you listened to him, by himself, you knew exactly where the time was. Yeah. It was just like listening to a great drummer.
You mentioned that High Crime record. I still listen to it, and I think it's the best rock horn section recording ever. I mean, it's just
well, it's my favorite.
Every aspect of it is just absolute perfection. Michael Jackson.
Well, Michael is another one of those kind of genius miracle kind of characters. You know, he, through the arc of his career, when we were there with him for his first, you know, his initial forays into the solo record business, you know, like the stuff that he was doing, the energy that he had, and the time feel, and his melodic capabilities, and all of that kind of stuff were, well, I mean, they, you know, obviously there's not a whole lot that hasn't been said about him, you know, and with Quincy producing and Bruce Swedien engineering, there was, and having the luxury of time to decide, we like this, we're going to change this, you know, like there was no hurriedness to it. I admit that. We didn't just go in and play it and leave, you know. We took our time with it, and that was a beautiful luxury because we were able to come up with stuff that really worked well.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, great composer, arranger who started off as a trombone player, Johnny Mandel.
Johnny Mandel. He's written some of the greatest inside harmony notes I've ever played. You know, sitting in a trombone section and playing third trombone or playing the bass trombone parts for him on half notes is sort of like a real experience. And I haven't worked for him too much in the last couple of years. I don't know how much trombone he's using, but he writes these beautiful string charts still. But he's got a big band, and I'm subbing on the big band next week.
Oh, that's cool.
For a gig, yeah.
You know, as I said in the introduction, it's hard for me to imagine that you're not the most recorded trombone player of all time, given the range of recording that you've done over the years. Over the past 20 years, it seems like you've been focusing a lot on motion picture soundtracks and doing a lot of that. Can you kind of just give us a general idea of what that's like, what your days look like in that regard, and what you feel about that work? Do you enjoy that work? Is just kind of a range of thoughts on that.
It's like I hate to say that it's like a more adult situation. It's more like a symphony orchestra job in a way, you know. I can differentiate that from the record business. The record business was probably more fun because it was more casual, and we weren't working like 50 minutes and taking a 10. You know, the film business is usually, well, on the TV shows, it's maybe 35, 40 players, and with the big movies, it's maybe 60, 70, 80, 90 players. So it's like a full symphony orchestra in the room. You're going to do 50 minutes and then take a 10. And it's regulated like that. And it's not quite as freewheeling as a record date would be. I mean, you can't feature your own sense of humor out in public quite the same way as you might if there's only 4 or 5 of you. So
Indeed,
I have to
yes.
watch myself a
Yes,
little
indeed.
bit. But it's a great job.
Yeah. And from a listener's perspective, some amazing pieces of music, you know, in terms of just listening to it. Listening to film scores has become quite a, you know, it's like modern classical music in a certain kind of way.
It
you know?
is.
You know,
It is
it's
kind of like modern
very,
classical
very
music.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, most of our listeners are brass players, and I think, you know, among your huge range of talents, I think your doubling ability is second to none. I'm sure a lot of our listeners would like to know, you know, just what you're playing on these days, and equipment-wise, mouthpiece-wise, horn-wise. What, where does it lead Bill Reichenbach these days?
Confused. No, actually, I play bass trombone most of the time now, and I'm playing on a Gary Greenhoe bass trombone. It's over there, waiting for you to pick it up and play it. And the mouthpiece is a George Roberts SO model, which means slightly oversized. I think it was originally designed by Bert Herrick. That's what we think. And it was made by West LA Music back in the early 80s or late 70s. He came out with a line of 4 bass trombone mouthpieces, and that was the largest one. And Lou McCurry and I both played that one. And so that's the one that I keep coming back to, and I've been basically playing that mouthpiece all these years. I play a lot of tuba nowadays. This is the tuba that I use. It's a Besson E-flat compensating tuba. I play on all the Fox cartoons, like Family Guy and American Dad and Cleveland and The Simpsons sometimes. I can't make all those dates. Matter of fact, they're doing The Simpsons right now.
Well, we're glad you're here.
But they just, you know, the beginning of The Simpsons where the little girl is playing in the band and then she gets up and walks out playing the saxophone.
Right.
Well, they did it as a tuba solo recently, and I know on the 500th show, and that's me playing the tuba solo. It's like a jazz tuba solo for her playing that kind of thing. So, and I love playing tuba because it's really it's a fun instrument to play, and so I really enjoy playing it. And every once in a while, I play it on a big band. Wayne Bergeron's band has a couple of tuba parts, and so I really like playing that.
Oh, very cool. How about these little guys here?
These are more rare. They don't show up on film dates. They might show up on a jazz gig. Like when I go out and play with the rhythm section, I'll take the bass trombone, and this is the bass trumpet, and I'll play, you know. I can sort of like, instead of playing tenor trombone, I'll play on this, and it gives me the chance to play something on valves, you know. And this is a Bach. This used to belong to Lou McCreary, and it's a 6.5 AL size Warburton mouthpiece.
Okay.
This is an antique horn called, back in the old days, a solo alto horn. Most of the times an alto horn is upright, like a euphonium. But they made these horns like this. You know, you're playing a solo, the horn's going to come out like that. And I really haven't come to terms with the mouthpiece on this thing, but this is an E-flat, so it's E-flat like an alto trombone E-flat. So. This is a con made in about 1895 or something like that. It's all engraved. It's
Wow.
just a beautiful. This horn
Yeah,
is
it's a
so
beautiful
to play.
Wow.
Now, looking at it from the other standpoint, this is another con. This is an alto valve trombone, and so it's the same pitch as that instrument. It's obviously acoustically a little different. The bell looks different and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little brighter, you know. surprisingly enough, back in the old days of the American Brass Band School, which was probably a 8 to 12 piece band, maybe 15-piece band, they used a lot of these alto valve trombones.
Oh,
This
wow.
was the alto voice. They didn't necessarily use those. They might have been one or the other. They didn't use French horn or anything. So this was not an uncommon instrument back then. And recently, I played both of these on a Claire Fisher big band album that just came out. I actually played a solo on that horn, on the alto valve trombone.
Wow, that's a very cool sound. Different, you know, than
Yeah,
you normally.
yeah. It's a little different sound than a regular alto trombone too, because the bore size, I think the bore size is smaller on that. Plus the valves, it's a little bit more compressed. You know.
And Bill, thanks so much for being with us today. In closing, you know, given the way the music business has evolved over the last 20, 25 years, and you look back on your amazing career and all the experiences you have, and you look forward to, you know, just different trends in the music business. What, if there was any single piece of advice you'd have for a young trombonist or bass trombonist who's coming up now, is there anything you'd kind of steer him in a certain, him or her in a certain direction?
Well, the business isn't getting easier. Be aware of that. If you think you want to make a career as a musician, you have to be real prepared. You want to work on your versatility, be aware of all the different styles and stuff. You can't just practice your orchestral excerpts and then walk in and play in a big band and sound right. You want to try to understand what your equipment requirements are, whatever they might be. If you're going to come out here and be in the studio business or try to be in the studio business somewhere, there's a certain expectation of doubling now that wasn't around when I started, although that's what I did. Now, by this time, they expect all tenor trombone players to play pretty good bass trombone, and they expect all bass trombone players to be able to play something on tuba or contrabass trombone, you know, which is a sizable investment if you just have to, if you're sweating out whether you're going to work. So it's good to have exposure to those things and to try to understand what you're going to have to do on them, and maybe find yourself in a situation to borrow a horn from somebody and try it, you know, get some brass quintet experience on these odd instruments, or anything that you can do to expand your whole understanding of what music might be coming down in front of you, because you have to figure it out real fast.
That's great advice. Well, Bill, it's always a pleasure to get to spend time with you involved in music or otherwise, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today, and I'm sure all our listeners are going to get a lot out of this, so thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you. Yeah, man, great.